Miss Priska Ogolo.
Mr. Moderator, astute judges, my worthy opponents, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, listening audience, good evening. I rise to come before you in total support of the argument that advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society. Before advancing my argument, please allow me to define the key terms of the debate. According to the Webster's Online Dictionary, advancement is defined as progressing or improving. Cellular phone refers to a handheld mobile device. Positive means involving advantage or good, whereas negative is defined as involving disadvantage or harm, and impact is to affect or influence significantly. Mr. Moderator, let me first make clear that the argument asks of us to show that the cell phone does more harm than good, and not that no harm exists at all. Thus said, I will deal with the various advantages while my partner will dispel misconceptions. Sir, the cell phone has been the most important invention over the last 10 years. And over the last 5 years, the cell phone has had a great impact on the Anguillan society. With the recent advancement of the cell phone, communication in Anguilla has become easier and faster. In fact, the phone now has almost all the features of a computer. Not only is the phone used for talking, but it's used for texting, email, Viber, WhatsApp, Tango, Skype, Uvu, or even Kik. Some of them are now equipped with cameras, enabling people to take pictures of memorable events or to simply record useful information. Not only that, sir, isn't it obvious that long-distance communication is not a hassle at all? Just this Saturday, I attended a wedding in Nigeria using my cell phone. Now that saved me a plane ticket. I can contact people thousands of miles away using that amazing green button. Even better, Digicel has recognized that the positives outweigh the negatives and are now leading the telecommunications market because they rolled out 4G, enabling a faster, easier, and efficient positive experience. Having consulted a staff of Digicel, the following was said. When asked his take on the matter, Mr. Pickering said that it is indeed positive. He claims that there is more mobility and that it isn't proved for a fact that phones give cancer and that there was simply no restriction when using a cell phone. He also claims that the government taxes approximately 10% for usage and that generates revenue for the government. And he said that Anguillans like to be in the now. So, Digicel strives to bring to the minds of people what is out there and what is next. By the way, if cell phones cause cancer, wouldn't that mean that the billions of people around the world, including me, my opponents, and yourself would have cancer? Tell me, sir, do you have cancer? I sure don't, and I use my cell phone all the time. Ha ha! Sir, my opponents may try to fool a genius like you into believing that it is expensive, which brings me to my next point. Sir, cell phones cut costs. We have to admit that the phone is precisely many useful everyday gadgets gift wrapped in one technological bundle. One doesn't even need a smartphone to access the internet and other useful devices like calculators, etc. Why, the popular indestructible Nokias were the first to contain flashlights. While some may argue that these phones incur unnecessary expense, I beg to differ. Cell phones are an investment. Sir, cell phones are essential during emergencies. If an emergency occurs at home, the first thing that comes to your mind is to call 911. When accidents happen on any road in Anguilla, the Good Samaritans do not drive the victims to the hospital immediately. Rather, they simply dial 911 and help is on the way. Did you know that important government announcements are sent directly to your phone via text messages? Digicel and Lime do this all the time, like tonight's debate, for example. I move right on to my next point, and that is phones save time. I am quite sure, sir, that you or any holder of a smartphone can attest to how much time is saved when a group chat is created in BlackBerry Messenger or WhatsApp. Instead of driving from your home to another location, then waiting on Anguillians who interpret 5 o'clock as 8:30, and finally, battling out some problem or decision for what may seem like hours, you could easily skip to the latter part with the push of a button. Basically, sir, we have no need wasting our time or energy busy hurrying to get to a meeting or to stand in long lines. The cell phone has done away with these time wasters. Working people now have the opportunity to spend time with their families instead of bustling to and fro on the dangerous roads. Now, don't get me wrong, sir. My partner and I are not saying that phones are limited to Blackberries and Nokias alone. That's just a foolish, ignorant misconception. Just yesterday, I saw an article on Flipboard, by the way, a phone app, about a wristwatch phone designed specially for toddlers. In fact, did you know the eighth wonder of the world is the Samsung Galaxy Note 2? It's a phone, tablet, and notebook. Have you ever considered the fact that some people just can't feel right without a phone? I can bet you that majority of people in this room, including my opponents, have their phones on hand. How ironic. Come on, how can you oppose this with such a clear conscience? Finally, I can't close without stating that phones make tedious jobs much easier. Yes, sir. Let me vividly paint for you yet another scene. You have to send some important information through the post office. You are finally at the front of the line. But the cashier with the bad weave, who won't stop chopping her gum, tells you to join another line and then come back. OMG! Even at the bank is the same thing. 2 words, Mr. Moderator: cell and phone. Posting messages and banking? Psh, not a problem. Email and NBS online banking program are easily accessed on your phone. As I come to the close of my argument, I must leave you with a heartwarming story. After losing her vision 3 years ago, a woman can no longer see. She said she bought a flip phone which reads out all the screens and texts. Isn't that great? Wouldn't that help a blind woman? Sir, this is a world of technology, and the cell phone is upgrading daily. I am sure that my humble opponents don't want Anguilla to be left behind and to be the Tarzans of this world. Mr. Moderator, if we look at the many positives and life-changing stories compared to the few negatives that my partner will ably dismiss, all of you will have no choice but to join with us and fully proclaim that we are pro-cell phone. I thank you.
That was Priska Ogolo supporting the argument that the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society. And Speaker of the Opposition to oppose the argument that the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society. I ask you now to put your hands together and welcome to the podium Mr. Juan Dupuy.
Mr. Moderator, distinguished judges, my illustrious opponents, fellow debaters, listening audience, a pleasant good evening. I rise in total opposition to the moot, and I quote, "The advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society," unquote. Before I get into the meat of my argument, please permit me to define the key terms of the moot. According to the Oxford Dictionary, advancement is defined as improvement, the cellular phone is defined as a mobile device, positive is defined as affirmative, negative is defined as contrary, society is defined as a community, while impact is defined as effect. Mr. Moderator, my colleague and I would like to make it abundantly clear from the start that we believe that the cellular phone is a wonderful thing. However, in Anguilla, the people have totally abused and misused this device, and as a result, the cell phone has had a more negative than positive impact on the Anguillan society. Firstly, Mr. Moderator, everyone appears to be addicted to the cell phone. It seems like most people today cannot function without it. From preschoolers to grandmothers, even if they cannot operate one, they have one. Mr. Moderator, everyone seems to have the cell phone fever, and it is eating away at our society like a growing cancer. Mr. Moderator, there are some persons who spend loads of money every month on phone bills and have little left to pay for essentials. And please, Mr. Moderator, don't assume that they are using their phones to make business calls or to do research. Many of them waste time and money on overseas calls, either chatting to friends or simply trying to get the latest gossip. Mr. Moderator, this does not impact our society in a positive way. In fact, it does the exact opposite. Because when we give these communication giants our money to top up, we make them richer, then we suck salt. We strain our local economy because we can no longer pay our debt to the banks and the grocery stores, or even fulfill our household needs. And at the same time, we put our health and lives at risk, which creates a negative impact. Mr. Moderator, there's enough research to prove the link between cell phone use and negative health effects, particularly cancer. And it is no secret that all kinds of cancer cases have spiraled in Anguilla over the last few decades. And we have to wonder, Mr. Moderator, because when it comes to cancer, Anguilla is no different from anywhere else. Research shows that radiation coming from mobile phones emits strong electromagnetic waves which can be absorbed by tissues closest to where the phone is held, our breast pocket and pants pockets. And these electromagnetic waves can cause infertility in men, mental disorders, deafness, and cancer. A study led by Dr. Agarwal, published by ControlYourImpact.com, revealed, and I quote, "Electromagnetic waves found in cell phones alter the electric activity of the brain and cause disturbance in sleep, difficulty in concentration, fatigue, and headache," unquote. Another study by Swedish researchers published on the same website suggests, and I quote, "Radiation from cell phones damage areas of the brain associated with learning, memory, and movement, and damage key brain cells that could trigger the early onset of Alzheimer's disease," unquote. Furthermore, Mr. Moderator, the European Journal of Cancer Prevention 2002 found that, and I quote, People who use cell phones were 2.5 times more likely to have a temporal brain tumor on the side of the head where they held their phone, unquote. Mr. Moderator, this reminds us of the death of the renowned lawyer Johnny Cochran, who is believed to have died as a result of brain cancer due largely in part by cell phone use. By the same token, Mr. Moderator, in order for cell phones to work, towers are required. And Mr. Moderator, cell phone towers cover our landscape from the tip of Windward Point to the foot of West End. And these towers also emit microwave radiation, which raises the question of what negative impact is created on the environment as well. And we will be foolhardy, Mr. Moderator, to think that we are spared from the health risks associated with continuous exposure. Because, Mr. Moderator, Anguillians are not bionic creatures. And I'm saying that if cell phones are putting our health at risk, then that is a negative impact. Am I right, Mr. Moderator? Am I right? Mr. Moderator, it is the same concern of having to turn your cell phone off while on a plane or doing an x-ray, because the microwave radiation can interfere with electronics and produce a negative impact and, by extension, a total disaster. Mr. Moderator, many people here abuse the cell phone in the workplace when they are supposed to be working. They waste the company's time sending texts, BBs, WhatsApp, or Skype messages to friends, especially when the boss is not in office. Mr. Moderator, it's really true that when the cat's away, the mice will play. Even in our hospital, patients will be groaning in pain while nurses are too busy on their cell phones to look after them. And this isn't hearsay, Mr. Moderator. I have witnessed this for myself. Mr. Moderator, right here in our school, students sometimes run wild in some classes while some teachers chat and shop on their phones. In fact, some students had the opportunity to cheat in exams while the teachers were too busy on their cell phones to properly supervise them. Mr. Moderator, I know that my intellectual opponents would try desperately to misguide you into believing that the majority of Anguillians use their cell phones to do research, conduct business, and do homework and assignments. But, Mr. Moderator, I conducted a survey of 100 students and persons in my community about the use of cell phones, and the survey revealed that they use their cell phone 80% of the time to send messages and play games, 50% to listen to music, 40% to chat with friends, 20% to do research, and 20% to do business. So you see, Mr. Moderator, although the cell phone has many educational uses, many Anguillians focus on those that help them idle, gossip, and cause mischief. And my naive opponents want to tell me that this is positive? Mr. Moderator, them got to be joking. Finally, Mr. Moderator, cell phone advancement has made Anguillians antisocial. Research demonstrates that phones are eroding our ability to communicate in face-to-face dialogue and reduces general conversation. I believe that Dr. Sanders Medlock puts it best, and I quote, "Gone are the days of sitting together at a table and asking the simple question of how was your day," unquote. Mr. Moderator, good manners, communication with family, and table etiquette have all been replaced by BBMing or listening to music on your cell phone. And Mr. Moderator, if you would hear some of the music, you will better understand why we have a society of so many hooligans. Young people burned just yesterday with the filthiest of language coming from their mouths. And Mr. Moderator, we don't need to research Google on this because Anguillians live with this every day. Our values have been eroded. Moral standards have deteriorated, and the very fabric of society, which is the family, is under serious threat. This is a negative impact I speak of, Mr. Moderator. There's nothing positive about this. I must therefore stand firm in total opposition to the moot and even rewrite it to read, the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more negative than positive impact on the Anguillan society. I thank you.
That
Prominent judges, my most competent opponents, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant good evening. I come before you in complete support to the moot. the advancement of the cell phone has had a more positive impact than negative impact on the Anguillan society. As my partner has previously stated, it is my duty to dismiss the popular negative implications the cell phone is believed to have on the Anguillan society. Firstly, Mr. Moderator, I refer to the common incidents that seem to plague Anguilla and countries across the world. Time and time again, we hear of the infamous headline, "Teen commits suicide after photos were leaked or because of cyberbullying." People often use these said incidents as the premise for saying that cell phones have negatively impacted our societies. However, Mr. Moderator, and a big however too, we seldom hear the real source being blamed, the owner of the phone. Although cell phone has many features and apps, it is only as intelligent as the person who designed it and its users. Thus said, Mr. Moderator, we cannot blame the cell phone for how it is used, as it is a non-living, man-made thing. It would be as though we are blaming a glove for robbing a home or a knife for killing someone. All of these inventions were made for positive purposes, but have been thwarted by humans in their ill use. Basically, Mr. Moderator, this is evident in many stories where before Anguilla had even had phones, parents were still able to hear about their child's wrongdoing before they got home or who had been where at what time. What did they blame back then, Mr. Moderator? The people. Who should they blame now, Mr. Moderator? Why, the people, of course. As I move on to my next point, Mr. Moderator, I wish to share with you the findings by a survey held by Midwestern University. It says, a majority of students thought that cell phones strengthened their friendships. This brings me to my second concern, Mr. Moderator, which is the fact that many persons, probably even our esteemed opponents, believe that cell phones have made the Anguillians become antisocial. Nothing could be further from the truth, Mr. Moderator. When they communicate using their phones, aren't they communicating with someone? So how can you tell me that they are antisocial? The fact is, Mr. Moderator, we have to admit that the advancement of the cellular phone in Anguilla has made communication much easier and faster. It has become much easier to access information, and it has also become much easier to conduct business. Staying in contact with overseas family and friends, and even those not seen often, has become a possibility. Even the old people, Mr. Moderator, as we colloquially say, getting into things by creating their own Facebook accounts and accessing them on their smartphones. And while we younger ones constantly decline their friend requests, they are still able to contact their other old friends from college days. I mean, seriously, Mr. Moderator, something has to be good about cell phones if everyone on the school's senior management team is rocking one. Another popular but disprovable belief is that cell phones put persons in risk of danger and fraud. On the contrary, Mr. Moderator, cell phones actually save lives. Emergency services are just a speed dial away, and even though we complain of how long our police and ambulance take to reach to the scene, a cell phone helps us to contact them nonetheless. Mr. Moderator, there have been even many incidents in Anguilla where cell phones have been used to locate missing persons and track criminals. And if you're worried about fraud, there are various available software that allows you to secure your personal information or to monitor how a child uses their phone. Mr. Moderator, my naive opponents might try desperately to convince you into believing that Anguillians spend more time using their phones to gossip and spread propaganda. But both you and I know, Mr. Moderator, ain't nobody got time for that. As I close my debate, Mr. Moderator, I have to bring in some final positives that the cell phone brings to the Anguillan society. Saunders Medlock, a parent and the writer of the article, Monitoring Cell Phone Usage, claims that phones can be seen as a privilege that is earned and can be taken away from its behaviors. I know of many instances in Anguillan homes, Mr. Moderator, where this is evident and effective. Mr. Moderator, The cell phone has also become the most effective way to promote an important event in Anguilla. The best way to advertise a program, show, concert, or meetings, such as tonight's debate, is via text message or broadcast on BBM or WhatsApp. Additionally, Mr. Moderator, important information about weather conditions, schools, blood requests, or missing persons can be easily and quickly circulated this way. Even for simple but lasting gestures like sending birthday or anniversary greetings, as well as sympathy or get-well messages to family, friends, and loved ones, may be sent using the cell phone as a medium. And if you forget, reminders on BBM, WhatsApp, and Facebook statuses serve as a reliable notice. Having considered the various positive impacts and clarifying common misconceptions of the cell phone, Mr. Moderator, I can only stand with my partner and rightly conclude that the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society. I rest my case.
Moderator, prominent judges, my illustrious opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I now have the exciting task of providing additional support to my colleague in complete opposition to the moot, and I quote, "The advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society," unquote. Mr. Moderator, as my colleague alluded to earlier, there is nothing wrong with having a cell phone. However, the cell phone in the hands of the wrong person is like a loaded gun, and when used incorrectly and irresponsibly can have catastrophic consequences. Mr. Moderator, the cell phone is the fastest and most popular means of spreading negative and shameful news. This is so because cell phones carry a camera which is often used in sinister ways. For example, people are quick to take pictures or make a video of someone in an embarrassing situation. And bang, it's up on Facebook or YouTube for the world to see without even considering the hurt and pain that it could cause. A University of Texas survey in 2008 found, and I quote, "Half of all young mobile users have received a sexually explicit picture or text message," unquote. Just last year, Mr. Moderator, a teenager in Ohio hangs herself after a nude photo of her was texted around her school. And this is not unique to America, Mr. Moderator. Students here in Anguilla circulate dirty pictures of other students on their cell phones all the time. And these students have to take counseling. So you see, Mr. Moderator, the injury and the negative impact that cell phones cause. Mr. Moderator, with the advancement of cell phones, students have totally lost focus on their schoolwork. Every spare second, they must be on their phones, even during class time. Although there has been a ban on cell phone in high schools, students still find a way to sneak them past the guards. Rumors say the girls hide them in their underwear, but I ain't touching that. But yet, Mr. Moderator, the link to which some students would go to break the rules just to have a cell phone is appalling, and at the same time creates a negative impact. One teacher said he can always tell when students are on their phones, and I quote, "Their eyes are down, their heads are bent, and they have a dark ring around their necks," unquote. And you know, Mr. Moderator, that teacher is right. I checked it out for myself. Mr. Moderator, we both know of the unfortunate incident where the parents of a child found themselves in the school within 10 minutes, making noise and threatening a teacher because that teacher has taken away their child's cell phone. What was even more disturbing, Mr. Moderator, was discovering that that student constantly misbehaved, never did homework, failed more subjects, and the parents had never even attended a PTA meeting to find out why. Mr. Moderator, show me the positive in this. This is an attack on our core values, a negative, because that student and his teacher knew it was against the rules to bring a cell phone to school. And though they were all wrong, they still wanted to be strong. Mr. Moderator, it seems the cell phone has even taken away our common sense, and this is no laughing matter. Mr. Moderator, the advancement of cell phones has brought with it a decline in standard and spelling of grammar. Text messages and the need to make messages short have caused us to develop new ways of spelling, which has now transferred to the books of some students. Mr. Moderator, I am sure you have seen some words that have been butchered. In an article published in the UK Guardian, Dr. Sanders Medlock stated, and I quote, "Text speak has been blamed for damaging the English language and is even affecting literacy levels," unquote. Indeed, Mr. Moderator, cell phones have not only affected us here in Anguilla, but also globally. Mr. Moderator, many Anguillians enjoy chatting on their phones or sending text messages while driving. This is extremely dangerous and can cause serious and fatal accidents. In fact, it has already caused several here, so much so that one of our insurance companies, Mako, has erected warning signs all across Anguilla that read, and I quote, "Don't text and drive," unquote. Additionally, a study by Dr. Rathwan entitled Epidemiological Evidence on Health Risks of Cellular Phones stated, and I quote, "The risk of collision was 4 times greater when the driver was using the telephone or soon after a call," unquote. Therefore, Mr. Moderator, we are now even more aware of the negative impact cell phones have. Mr. Moderator, my noble opponents may want to tell you that talking to a passenger poses the same risk as talking on a mobile phone. But the fact is that a passenger can take the traffic situation into account, which is something impossible for someone on the other side of a cell phone to do. Mr. Moderator, cell phones have eroded the good manners of Anguillan people. They are a big-time distraction and, quite frankly, a nuisance in silent places like the library, restaurants, and even in the House of Assembly. Even at important functions such as graduations, meetings, and funerals, people can be seen chatting or sending messages on their phones. But do you know what is even more disgusting, Mr. Moderator? The phone rings during a church service. And you would think, Mr. Moderator, that the person is skinning the bag inside out to quickly silence or switch off the phone. But no, instead you hear, "Hello, hello." Mr. Moderator, this is not only disgusting, but downright disrespectful. And so I ask, Mr. Moderator, how can this be seen as anything else but this negative? By the way, Mr. Moderator, turn around. Look at the audience. Look at how many persons are on their phones right now. That's the evidence. That's the negative impact I'm speaking about. Mr. Moderator, while cell phones may be necessary and convenient at times, and they appear to make life easier, it doesn't mean they have impacted us in a positive way. In fact, for every plus, there is a convincingly profound minus. I therefore remain totally convinced that the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more negative than positive impact on the Anguillan society. I thank you.
And that was Mr. Xavier Devonish as he opposed the argument that the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society. And he spoke for a time work cut out for them. And the judges are going to deliberate. And we are not only going to talk about the topic, we are also going to talk about the debate tonight. First of all, you're going to tell me about the topic, then you can talk about the debate. Do you think that the advancement of the cellular phone has had a more positive than negative impact on the Anguillan society. Gaff, do we have a mobile? Where Gaff? Gaff? Oh, look, Gaff. Yes. Now I know you're ashamed to come up and say, so we'll bring the mic to you. You can do that, right? So you can stay where you are, we'll bring the mic and you can holler your business. Tell us, what do you think the advancement of the cellular phone, because I hear you making plenty noise. So you can tell me what you think. Do you think that...
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be as very brief as possible because I know that you have been waiting for quite a long time. I wish to begin by saying that having witnessed the display of intelligence here tonight, the Literary and the Debating Society at the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School stands to live for many years to come, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me. So we want to... On that note, on behalf of the other two judges, I commend both teams for the gallant effort that they have made in researching and presenting facts and opinions on what we thought was a very interesting topic, and a topic that many of us can relate to. We thought that the topic was very well researched, and the teams basically did a fine job, even though we thought that one team went deeper into the research. Because it's a learning experience for all students, we have some words of caution / suggestions, and I'm going to be very brief. The first is that we recommend to both teams that in an effort to give a clearer structure to your argument, we would like to see you outline the topic in a way that you suggest to your audience what each speaker will deal with. So you set what we call the parameters of your debate very early in the argument, and most times the leader of the teams are the ones who would do so. It might be useful if you say, for example, what you as the leader will be dealing with and the specific areas of focus that your colleague or the seconder will be dealing with. The second thing is that we are asking you to be careful not to give information that is lacking in strong research evidence. We know that you are young, but it doesn't hurt for you to learn this, especially if you're hoping to advance in the field of debating. If you give support, which is what should be ideally done, it must not be sketchy. Your support must be, or research evidence must be substantial. And I'm going to give just one example. The second speaker of the proposition, in her argument, made the case that cell phones strengthen friendships. And she made a reference to a study that was done, I think it was at the Midwestern State University. And we thought that very little indication was made as to what the study actually showed, and very little information was given as to the how. How does a cell phone strengthen a friendship? If you are saying that a study has been carried out and they have found that cell phones strengthen friendship, it would have made it it would have made your case stronger for you to say how this friendship or the link between cell phone and friendship. So the absence of solid research makes your argument weak and less valid. We thought that the opposition was very strong in providing ample research evidence that came in the form of statistics, quotations, etc. We also felt that the proposition, you had an interesting argument, but that of the opposition was more tightly constructed. It was not limited to any one factor. And basically what we mean is that rather than drawing on the negative impact, they drew on the negative impact in the areas of economic, social, and environmental realms. And we thought that that made your argument very comprehensive. I must say that for the most part, the opposition, your argument was instructive. I think you taught us a lot of lessons, especially as you have appealed to the need for us to act in or use the cell phone in more appropriate ways. And I noticed that you made a reference to the inappropriate use of the cell phone in places of reverence like church and in other formal settings, house of assembly. And I think there's a public outcry against that, so we thought that it was very instructive. Don't you agree with me? So those, like I said, we do recognize that they are young, they're upcoming, and they have a long way to go, so I won't really, I don't want to make it too hard for them. Delivery, I just have a few points on delivery. All debaters we thought were engaging, and I ask that you put your hands together for them, because it's not easy to come forward and present an argument. Eye contact and posture were fairly good. However, we feel that more work needs to be done in managing your voice so as to eliminate screaming. Some persons we felt were, screaming a bit. And it's something that I really like, the use of a little whisper. Now and again, it will help to make the presentation more effective. Be careful not to overuse your hands, especially in ways that can be offensive and overly dramatic, as this tends to detract from your actual performance. We found that, one or two persons came up and this, it's inappropriate for a debate. So that's something we would like for you to work on going forward. We wish to commend all of the debaters for a job well done, and we wish you all the best as you move forward. Chelsea, my assistant, is going to make just a few comments on the best speaker, because I think that is something that you're eager to hear.
Good evening. For the best speaker, as the head judge mentioned, he was very engaging. He engaged the audience a lot. He was very entertaining. Used a lot of personal appeal. And the manner in which he presented the debate was very the manner in which he presented the debate, it was funny, it was entertaining without being overly dramatic. And we would just like to say that he was clear, he was fluent, but he needs to work on his voice control, and we look forward to much more from him in the future and all the other debaters. And overall, they all did a good job. Thank you.
The time that you're waiting for is here. The results. The total results. The first speaker of the proposition scored 64 points. The first speaker of the opposition scored 73 points. The first speaker of the second speaker, of the proposition scored 51 points. The second speaker of the opposition scored 76 points. The proposition scored 115 points, and the opposition scored 149 points, and the best speaker being Xavier Devonish. Exchange handshakes in front. Front. Exchange handshake in front. Good. Put your hands together for our debaters tonight. I would now like to invite Miss Kiliki, Venetia Hodge, to help us with the presentation of the trophies, as well as Kevisia, Barry, and who else? What other person? Barry and who? The most outstanding participation for 2013 goes to Jada Hughes. Also, for most outstanding participation, 2013, we have Miss Tiara Niles. The most helpful debater for 2013 goes to Mr. Cleanse Carty. The Fair Play Award for 2013 goes to Ariel Boucher. The most courageous debater for 2013 goes to Dejani Connor. Our most dedicated debater, 2013, goes to Miggy Yorera. We now move to our impromptu speech. We start with the 5th place position. 5th place in the impromptu speech goes to Jada Hughes. 4th place in our impromptu speech went to Kiev Edwards. And this award will be collected by Maisha Latang. And we had a tie for 3rd place in our impromptu speech. 3rd place went to Gwen Scotty and Staniqua Crawford. Second place in impromptu speech went to Tiara Niles. And the winner of the Impromptu Speech 2013 goes to Dumisa Webster. The most improved debater for 2013, none other than Shine Paul. The best new debater for 2013, Shelly-Ann Pinard. The best speaker for year one goes to Lucialis Pina. The best speaker for year two goes to Malik Richardson. See the man there waiting to change it? Right now. Yeah. No, but I have to take pictures first. Come. Malik, they want to change your trophy tab right now. As soon as. Oh, okay. And so we move on to third place. No, that last. Last. Third place in the NYPD 2013 debate goes to Malik Richardson and Shamara Gomes. And second place in the NYPD 2013 competition goes to Priska Ogolo and Lucialis Pina. And the champions for 2013 NYPD go to none other than Xavier Devenish and Juan Dupuis. And the biggest trophy of the night goes to the smallest man on show. Tonight's best speaker goes to Xavier Devenish. And just before we round off, I would like to show my appreciation to the judges who have stuck with us from day one to day 1,000. From the preliminaries right down to the end, I would like to call Mr. Jose Vanterpool, Mr. David Fife, and Sister Venetia Hodge to the stage and make a very special presentation. Come on down, put your hands together for our judges throughout the season. And you're going to get an official photo of all the... Yes. Thank you. And just before we take an official photo of all the winners, I'm going to ask Sister Tiara Niles to come and do the vote of thanks. And after that, I'm going to ask all the prize winners to come and take an official photo. Those persons who need to get their heads changed for the top of their photos will just stay here, and Mr. Gishard will change them immediately. And immediately after we finish, I'm going to ask you to assemble at the back there for refreshments. Tiara?
Good evening. As a current member of the NYPD, I am honored to have been given the opportunity of rendering the vote of thanks at this milestone event, the 10th annual NYPD Finals competition. I would like to thank the following persons and organizations: Mr. Gleason Brooks for the invocation, our judges, Ms. Chelsea Hughes, Ms. Kivane Lake, and Ms. Michelle Queely. Our timer, Mr. Kevin Thompson. The officials present, Honorable Jerome Roberts, Honorable Evan Gomes, and the Speaker of the House, Mrs. Barbara Webster-Bourne. Our sponsors, Anguilla Air Services, Anguilla Definitive Villas in care of Susan Webster, Ms. Clemencia Dupuy, J&K Customs Brokerage, Keen Enterprises Limited, Lime, National Trucking, Premier Taxi and Tours, Mr. Sam Webster, Shoal Bay Villas, Skyline Dry Cleaning Plus, Sunset Homes, Titanium Sounds, and Mr. Victor Banks. To the media houses present, Cool FM, Radio Anguilla, Upbeat Radio, Anguilla Access, and the Anguillian newspaper. To the debaters and members of the NYPD who have worked hard from round one. To the parents that have continued to support the NYPD. To Ms. Venetia Hodge, Mr. Jose Vanterpool, and Mr. David Fife, who for being faithful judges throughout the school year. To the executive committee of the NYPD for ensuring that the auditorium was ready for tonight's proceedings. To the vibrant audience before me, I say thanks. Last but not least, to the man who has coordinated this event for the past 10 years. To the man who has advised us. To the man who has told us to stop Nyamfuli Bush, and who has told us if the cap fit, you must wear it. To the man who spent sleepless nights ensuring debates and debaters were ready every week. Mr. Colin Johnson, we all thank you. If I have missed anyone, it was not intentional. Please enjoy your refreshments in the back of the room and safe journeys home. I thank you.
Could all the awardees come up so that we could have trophy presentation, pictures taken, please? Everybody who have won prizes, come up.